Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Fred.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes. Okay, I see a number of board members. Thank you for coming this evening. Really appreciate it. I think I see a couple of new people as well. Thank you for joining. All right, we're just going to allow for a couple more minutes just to allow for people to jump in as well, but then we're going to get started. Dante, just a quick question. I see read AI dot meeting notes. Is that ours or is that somebody joining us?
Sorry. Us. We added
Okay.
that.
Okay, all right. Want to make sure if Elon was listening.
Glad we're finally using meeting notes. I've been advocating for AI assistants for a while now. Should make it.
See,
we,
I listened to these concerns and then I resolved them. So here we go.
Good.
I,
Should make my phone
I figure
easier.
I figure it's about time that we get, comfortable with our AI, our future AI masters, so
Very true.
have them come
Yep.
to the board meeting. All right. I do see it's 6:35. I do want to be respectful of time. So I think if there's any questions anybody has, who comes in later on, we'll be able to loop them back. Dante, are we recording now?
We are live streaming. We're ready to go. And hold on, actually, I got to go back out to start the recording. Well, it's live stream, so we have a recording, so we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, very quickly, I just want to thank everyone who's joining us this evening, and for anyone who's watching us also on our Brooklyn CB9 Zoom, YouTube channel. Welcome to our Learn About Your Community Board presentation. So this is something that we started a couple of years ago. The idea being we wanted to have an opportunity for anyone who's interested about the board, who may have heard of us but are not quite sure about what we do, to get a little bit of information about it. And also, as a board member, I feel it's always great to just even go through some of this stuff because even when you've been doing it for a while, we sometimes forget a little bit about how this board of ours functions and where it stands in terms of the entire city government. So I welcome everyone. Uh, Let me go back. I want to introduce myself. My name is Fred Baptiste. I am currently the proud chair of Brooklyn Community Board 9. I do see we have a number of board members as well. If we could just do this, if the board members could just if you could just introduce yourself and how long you've been on the board, and if you have a position as well.
Sure, I'll start. Well, I'm Ethan. I am the first vice chair of Community Board 9. I've been here for about 2 years. This is my second year, and I think my third will be starting in April. So that is me.
My name is Felice Robertson. I've been on the community board for at least 10 years. I have been sitting in the second vice chair seat, going on, I think, a year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm elated and I am humbly grateful for the opportunity to help my community and hey, to make a difference. Thank you.
My name is Jolie. I've been on the board for about a year now.
Okay. I think, are there any board members on right now? I think we've exhausted the board members. And again, my name is Fred Baptiste, so I'm the chair. I've actually been on the board for about 13 years. So I guess what what you're seeing right now is there's a spread of experience on the board. But I think the common thread that you'll see is that we all care about this district. So I always say, I always tell my board, thank you for doing this, because this is definitely an extra. Usually when you're in the board, it's because you are involved in the community, either through civic groups or neighborhood groups. You might be involved in the schools, you might own a business, but there's something that drives you to service to the board because you care about it because this is you and this is our community and we want to make it better. Okay. But I've talked for a few minutes already. At this time, I would like to introduce also our district manager, Mr. Dante Arnwine.
Well, good evening, everyone. As the chair said, my name is Dante Arnwine. I serve as the district manager at Brooklyn Community Board 9. I am going on, let's see, 5 years in March. So I've been here a little bit, but it's a pleasure to have all of you on and look forward to working with you as your district manager. And if you're on just as a visitor, as a district manager, as a constituent. So we will move on in the presentation. So just a little bit about Community Board 9. Sometimes you will hear people say community board and community district. I want to clarify in this that this is Community District 9. Community District 9 encompasses the neighborhoods of South Crown Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, Wingate, and portions of North Flatbush. So you might hear it referred one way or the other, but Community Board 9 oversees Community District 9. What's a community board? New York City is divided into 59 geographic community districts. Of course, each of those districts has a respective community board. Here in Brooklyn, we have 18 community boards representing. Board members are appointed by the borough presidents of their respective borough. So each borough president across the city appoints their respective board members to the boards. Half of them are appointed at the recommendation of the local council member, and then they serve in a voluntary capacity for a 2-year staggered terms. Board members are your neighbors, people who you probably live around, that live down the street, are business owners. They might be PTA presidents, tenant association presidents, folks who represent on bids, precinct councils, so on and so forth. I know that we have members that serve in various capacities. And so some of your board members might actually serve in other spaces throughout the community. So if you participate in the board, I definitely encourage, if you are part of a tenant association or part of a merchant association or a block association, whatever it might be, definitely bring that experience and knowledge to the board. And then you're able to, communicate with other people on your block as well. What does a community board do? So a community board is an advisory city agency. It is tasked with making recommendations regarding proposed variances for zoning and special permit applications as it pertains to land use here in Community District 9. It also makes recommendations for improving city services and programming throughout the district. So if we want, let's say, more youth programming in the district, the board can advocate through its district needs process, for those efforts. Community board also assesses community district needs and makes recommendations as it pertains to the capital and expense budget. So if we're lacking, let's say, recreation centers, which we are, right? Or pools, which we are. Those are things that the board can most certainly advocate for. Another responsibility is it monitors services delivered by city agencies to our community. So we monitor, let's say, is DSNY getting to every block on the street? Is everyone's trash getting collected? If it's not, well, that's something that we most certainly get calls and emails about. And so we will, reach out to the agency to figure out, okay, what happened? How can we address this moving forward? And, sometimes you learn a little bit about agency operations, and sometimes it just makes sense why things didn't get picked up. But communication in that, is important. And then the board also serves, as an advocate for the disposition and welfare of the community. So, our meetings are open to the public, and we most certainly love that. And we want folks to come out and definitely share their sentiments on programs that are happening in the district, projects, future projects that are rumored to happen in the district, or even projects that are in the inception stages from city agencies. So, this definitely serves as a platform where people can come out, either committee or the general board, talk about those issues and advocate for the welfare of the community. You're muted.
After 2 years of doing this, you think I get this? No, thank you very much for that. So Dante told you a lot about what we do as a community board. So I think what we're going to do is try and highlight a little bit about how we do it and how the board is structured to accomplish these missions. So if you look at the community board, we talk about the main body is the general board. And that general board, as Dante had said, so it includes up to 50 members that are appointed by the borough president and local council members. So one of the responsibilities of the the borough president, is to make sure that there is diversity of the membership. So it's not all from one block, all from one part of the district or anything else. So the way that's achieved is that there's an application process, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Those are submitted to the borough president. So they take all kinds of information, demographic about do you rent? Do you own your own home? Do you have a car? Do you commute? Do you bike? Age, how old are you? Are you younger? Are you a student? And all those things. So we get that geographic representation. And then part of that is also ensured by the fact that half of the board is also selected or recommended, I should say, by the local council members. So especially if you're interested, that is also a route to go by. You may want to contact your local council member and let them know that you're interested and you're going to be applying. So you have the 50 members of the board that comprise the general board. Now, the way it breaks down from that, if you look at it this way, the board is the advisory part of it. So we set policy. So if there are variances, the board will get that information and vote on that and set that policy for the district in terms of that. If there are recommendations, if there are issues, a lot of things you'll see, one of the big functions that the board does is we issue resolutions on different topics in terms of what we understand the issues are on the ground and what our suggestions are in terms of taking care of those. So a lot of that's taken care of there. Let's go from left to right. But if you look at that orange piece, there's also an operational piece of the board that we do as well. That's where Dante and the district office team come in. So the district manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the board. So whenever you call CB9, it is Dante or one of his team who is going to pick up the phone. And in terms of that district office team, the district manager is hired directly by the board. So Dante went through a rigorous hiring process a few years ago. And we were very fortunate to get him. So again, he is hired by the board, he's an employee of the board, and he oversees the operations of our district office. So he handles the administrative function for that. And under him, he has a district office team. So there's an assistant district manager, Ms. Mia Hilton. Well, hopefully you will, if you haven't met her, it's a pleasure meeting and working with her. And we also have Khalid Jamat, who is our community associate now. I think that we have to correct that. He's a community associate. So that's the district office team, and they field the phone calls and they take the complaints and they do the follow-ups with the appropriate agencies. But going back to the advisory side again, to that community board, general board side, the board also from there elects officers. So those officers make up the executive committee. And we have 7 officers. So we have the chair, we have 2 vice chairs. We also have an executive secretary responsible for the minutes. We have a treasurer as well who provides reporting, and then we have two members at large as well. So all those responsibilities are defined by the bylaws. And again, the executive team provides the oversight for the board and the committee operations. So we make sure that we coordinate as best as we can. So if committees are dealing with issues, we might say, you know what, the two of you are dealing on the same issue, so maybe you might want to collaborate. Or we may say, you know what, maybe that's something that gets steered somewhere else. Or if committees are working on things, we might offer suggestions in terms of maybe these are things you might want to look at as well. But then that also leads us to the next conversation about our committees. So obviously, it's difficult to get 50 people together in a room and say we're going to work on a problem together. So what we do is we break that down. So all board members are responsible for serving on committees. We currently have, I believe, 10 standing committees, correct? There are 10 standing committees, which range from economic development to education library, to parks, transportation, land use, youth services, with health and social services, and we cover a number of different areas in the district. So those committees are responsible for, if chewing on these issues, so to speak, and hopefully, coming able to develop recommendations that the board can then act on. So we'll get those recommendations, and that's a very vital part. I like to say that the committees are the engine that drive the board, because that's where a lot of the conversations get to happen, and that's where that works. I would say in front as well, if you've gone to a CB9 meeting before, one of the challenges we have is that it's 50 people, up to 50 people getting together, but we have a finite time to get a lot of work done. So that's part of the reason why it's important that these committees function and work well, because that's really where we get to have the conversations in depth and be able to come up with the recommendations that really are going to be the best interest for the community as well. So I said we have 10 standing committees, but one of the things the board can do is if things come up, we can create ad hoc committees that are special purpose that will address special items. One of the last ad hoc committees we had actually was with regards to the city of Yes, where we created a committee that was going to work on that, because that especially was, these are documents with 600 pages, and we had an ad hoc committee specially dedicated to reviewing that and hope and being able to break it down so that way it was going to be something the board and the community could digest. So that's the way we operate. And again, just to introduce the executive committee. So there's myself, I serve as the chair. We have our first vice chair, Ethan Orville. We have our second vice chair, Felice Robertson. Our executive secretary is Linda Watson Lord. Our treasurer is Mina Lagut. And our members at large are Mr. Nicholas Almanor and Mr. Benjamin Rosenberger. I think we can go to the next slide. All right, should I take this one or you got this one?
Yeah, I'll do this one. So on the website, if you go to the CB9 website in the About BKCB9, one of the tabs that we have on the site is our governing documents and our statement of community needs. So every year, the start of the budget process actually starts with community boards where we do a district needs. We do a survey and then a statement that basically encompasses those needs, and then that's sent to the city agencies. And so that comes out every year from the Department of City Planning. So you can go onto our website and look at the most recent years, and it's readily available. And then also on the site, we have our governing docs. So Brooklyn Community Board 9, its bylaws reign supreme. And so we want to make sure that that's extremely accessible for not only board members, but the public, so folks understand how we're set up, how this agency, let me make that very clear, this agency is structured. Other governing documents, the city charter, which basically created us, is also a governing document, outlines the responsibilities of community boards. The rules of order, all of our meetings are open to the public, and we want to make sure that our meetings are being conducted in a respectful manner, and everyone gets an opportunity to express their personal sentiments for whatever the issues are. And so we want to make sure that meetings are fair and held in a respectable manner. So rules of order on our website as well. And then lastly, the open meetings law, the state law, which governs all of our meetings, basically talks about how our meetings are public and the record keeping of meetings. And so you can go onto our website there and click to get that information as well. Since I have the website page just up, I'll just talk a little bit more about the website. Also on the site, you can see that we have the calendar page. We do our absolute best to keep our calendar as up to date every day. So we've got to send information into another agency and they update it, but we try to keep that as up to date. So if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the board office to confirm when a meeting is going to happen. But as of right now, all of the committee meetings are up for the board. So hopefully folks can plan accordingly. We want folks to be able to come out, to the meetings if they are able to. Also on the website, there are other resources on there. Just a little bit about SLA. That's one of the big pieces of one of the committees, the Public Safety Committee. That's a major process that board members vote on. So some of those resources are on the website as well. And then a big piece is our minutes and agendas. They're on our website as well. If you click there, once a committee chair creates the agenda for their committee meeting, we put it up on the website. You can go there to get it. Also, when a committee meeting has finished, and then the committee votes on the minutes from the previous meeting, we will get those up on the website as soon as those are voted on. So you can basically keep record of what the agency is doing, what's happening in the meetings. And then, of course, if you're unable to make it to the meetings, you can look back and, see, what took place and then carry on the conversation from there. But there's other resources on our website. So feel free to go on there and check it out. I got this one. Thing is out there. So a little bit about the organizational chart continued. So we have a working relationship, I would call it, with Brooklyn Borough Hall. So community boards are under the umbrella of the Borough President's Office. We receive operational guidance for some things on the administrative side of the board. So like, for example, processing our rent, Borough Hall actually does that on the administrative side. So they help us with some administrative things. Let's see. There's a monthly meeting every month at Borough Hall, which Fred, the chair, takes part in, which is called Borough Board. So all the chairs from all the boards meet and represent their boards, talk about issues that come before the boards and also before the Borough President's Office as well. A little bit more about that relationship. They do, again, we lean on Borough Hall when boards are unable to fulfill some type of capacity. So at the beginning of the pandemic, everything kind of went haywire. And so we had to lean on Borough Hall to give us technology, so WebEx accessibility, so we could continue meetings and continue to do the business of the board. So we lean on them in certain ways. And then, as I mentioned just a little bit, we have worked directly with Borough Hall on programming, in the district. I think back in 2021, we worked with Borough Hall. Then, let's see, Senator Myrie, I think then Assemblymember Richardson, and some other folks to bring the farm stand that is at Nostrand and Crown. So we work with them on various things, but it's a working relationship that's everlasting.
If I could say something as well, I mean, just to underscore something. So you see, there is definitely a relationship between the community board and Borough Hall. But I also want to be very clear. Community Board 9 is actually a distinct New York City agency. So we are a New York City agency. We have our staff. There are city rules we have to follow and everything as well. But we run, the members of CB9 run CB9. And Dante, as is the administrative officer, he serves as that, and he does all that for us as well. And aside from that administrative stuff, we are able to speak on our own behalf and advocate for our district. Thank you, Dante. Should I continue? Jump on this one?
You got it.
All right. So we're going to go back for a moment with respect to the committees. So we had talked about it just a little bit in terms of these committees really are the engine that drive the board. So we have our committees that they include the executive committees, executive committee that includes the officers, but we also have the chairs of the various committees who come as well and provide reports. So that way we can perform the oversight function and advise as necessary in terms of if there's any conversations that we need to refer to them, or if there are things that we would want for them to consider to make sure that the questions are prepared for the board by the time they get to the board meetings. But in addition to that, we have economic development, we have environmental protection, you see health and social services, housing, parks, recreation, and culture. We have a public safety committee, as Dante said, that deals with um, state liquor license, state liquor authority licensing, but that's only a piece of that as well. We also deal with FDNY and NYPD, and we get reports about health and safety and things that are going on in the district for that. We have a transportation committee that has been working very hard in terms of trying to make sure that we're looking at transportation and traffic and bike lanes and cars and everything in a holistic fashion to make sure we're safe. We have our ULIP and Land Use Committee that has worked very hard in terms of trying to understand what's going on in the district, along with the needs. And I say that in conjunction with the Housing Committee as well, to understand what the housing needs are, where the issues are, understand where resources are as well for tenants, and hopefully be able to disseminate that information. And then we have our Youth Services and Education Library Committee. So they're definitely working, making sure that our youth have access to jobs, if there are training opportunities, making sure that we're advocating for our schools as well. So in terms of the way the committees function, so they vote on recommendations. Once they vote on those are reviewed by the executive committee, and then they go into the full board for the vote. They in the committees, they also discuss and plan board-sponsored events and programming for the community. And I want to just say very quickly with respect to that. So absolutely, the committees are responsible for the planning and doing the legwork for that. But when we do events, they're CB9 events. We want them to be CB9 events. We want to make sure that the board fully supports these things. These are priorities for the board, things that we want to make sure are done. So the committees start that process, but we make sure that these are things that are fully board supported at the end of the day. Committees by law are required to meet at least 5 times per year. Our year runs from September to June. So September 1st, the board year starts, and then June 30th is the last date for the board operations. Although our district office runs year round, but the board is on hiatus for the months of July and August. The committees are just like the board are responsible for keeping records. We want to make sure the public has access. So if you're not able to be there and participate, we want to make sure people understand what conversations are happening in the committees. Um, and they discuss a number of things. So they may discuss long-term issues, new issues, current issues that are happening throughout the district. And that last piece, they plan for the future. So we don't want to necessarily only be reactive. We want to make sure that we're looking at the district in terms of what the direction is and what the needs are going to be in the future. So not necessarily for this year, but 5 years and 10 years from now. Thanks. You can go to the next one. And on this one, and this is something for anybody who's been a part of one of our committees, typically we will send this out. So this talks about some of the activities that our committees have done historically. Just to pick on the top one, economic development. Some of the things we've done, we've developed Shop Local 365. So that started as an initiative where around that holiday season, we wanted to make sure we were advertising and supporting our local businesses. So that's something that's grown and developed, and we're talking about Shop Local 365. How do we support small entrepreneurs, small businesses? E-commerce training. That's one of those things we've discussed as well. We are now in 21st century. We have a 21st century economy, and we want to make sure our local businesses have the resources to be able to compete. So with that, we partner with small business services, and we've had conversations with other local business people as well. We try and make connections. One thing I want to tout right off the bat is this recently we actually developed a small business directory, which is fantastic. Again, we want to make sure we're supporting our small businesses. And again, so these kinds of things function in all the different committees. So while what you see here is an example of what we do, we are never limited to that. And I ask if anyone ever has an idea or is passionate about something to please bring that to our attention. One of the things I always say about the board is we don't know what we don't know. And this is why it's always critical that we have people who come and they let us know what their thoughts are, if they see issues to let us know what's going on, or if they think we could be doing something better as a district and as a city. Absolutely, the committees are places where we can start these conversations and keep those going. Want me to get this one?
All right. Board members. Board members are required to serve on at least one committee for the community board session. Again, the session is September to June. board members are required to attend their monthly committee and the general board meeting. So they have two obligations. It'll be the monthly and then the full general board where all the members will come and decide resolutions in the business of the board. Board members, we would love for also board members to participate in events. I'm very fortunate enough to work with agencies and nonprofits in my capacity as district manager, and they're always looking to bring services, to the district. And so we work diligently to try to get them in spaces where people can see what programs are being offered. Along with that, this board has created the annual community fair. And so, like, board members will come out, we'll have the agencies out there, the nonprofits out there. It's a good opportunity for current board members to meet the public, but also people who are interested in being a board member, talk to a current board member and kind of understand, the ins and outs of ins and outs of being a board member and what things you can do while you're on the board. Board members, do not wait until the next committee meeting. If you see something in the community, immediately reach out to the board office. This is what we do, right? What I do ask is if you are able to quickly throw it into 311 and with a picture would be awesome. Submit that to 311 and then send the 311 request to the board office so we can shoot it over to the city agency to see exactly what happened. And then we can start that paper trail with that agency to make sure that issue gets resolved. Board members, again, connect with your respective block associations and local organizations. We, as the administrative side, we look to our board members to help us disseminate information, right? Not every person is able to jump online for a meeting. We know that board members, again, live all over the district, right? And so if you know your neighbor, pass that information along. We do look for members of the board to kind of be members on the ground and disseminate information as it comes through the board office. And then also, again, we want to make sure that our board members are active here in the board. We want to encourage members who have been on the board for a year to run for leadership positions, whether it's at the committee level or at the executive level, right? That experience is going to be very important. Board members change. And so it's important to get a little bit of experience into these leadership positions as new people funnel in and out of the board. And so, board members have some responsibilities. These are a few, but, we wanted to highlight all of these because these are kind of the ins and outs, the day-to-day of being a board member.
If I could just touch on one point and just to kind of touch on something that Dante's been speaking about. We really count on board members to act as ambassadors for the board. Because the district office is fantastic and they can do a lot and they've done a lot, but there's three of them. And they utilize tools as great as they can. You see, we utilize technology in many places. So you have the website. We also have a constant contact that goes out on a weekly basis. They send out notices for everything, but there's only three of them. So what board members also do is we act as the force multiplier, so to speak. So if there are 50 people carrying the message out, so if we're able to take CB9 into whatever places we're plugged into, so if we can take them in the churches, if we can take them in the synagogues, we can take them into the block associations, if we can take them to our next door neighbors. So if we know that there is a senior that can't get out, and maybe they're not plugged in, we can share those messages and we can give those resources and provide that. And again, to Dante's point, when we see something, we have the ability to say something just by virtue of putting in a 311 request. So that way we document the fact that there's an issue going on in our community district. And Dante and the team are phenomenal at being able to hold agencies to account. So yeah, I just want to touch on that point where being a board member is a powerful thing. It is a powerful thing. You are a change agent for this district. You are able to spread the word and get information into places that just the district office can't do by itself, or the chair or any of the officers can by themselves. Thank you so much for that.
You got that.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Now, as I extol the virtues of being a board member, one of the things I do have to say is that it is a responsibility. It is a responsibility. Um, we have to make sure that we respect the board. We have to make sure that we respect the committees. Um, Obviously, understanding everyone who's a board member is because you are a leader. You have demonstrated leadership in this district. You are plugged into networks. You are out there in the streets, in the trenches, doing work. So obviously, we understand that this is an extra requirement or this is an extra job for you. This is not the one that will pay the bills. You will never get rich doing CB9. So we thank you in advance for the sacrifice and the service that you do. But part of that is that we need to make sure that attendance is one of those key things that has to happen. Um, we need quorum. So as for any representative body, you need a certain amount of members who are there in terms of being able to make a vote that is valid and legally binding. So attendance is required for both the committees and for the board. So as Dante said before, the board meets once a month. We are mandated. We meet once a month. The committees, minimum of 5 times per year, but most of our committees work year round. So they will be 9 or 10 meetings and possibly more depending on what the agendas call for. And just with regards to that, please, we just ask if it's a commitment. We ask that you respect that commitment because your absence does affect one, in the sense that it does lower the amount of people who are there. But two, anytime you are absent, it's a voice that's missing. And all these voices count, and they're what helps us come to these decisions. So just in terms of the administrative side, if you are unable to come to a committee meeting, or if you're unable to come to a board meeting, the expectation is just that you let us know, just the communication. I have something going on. There's a personal matter. I have a work conflict. I'm sick, any of that. And we understand life happens. So absolutely, and we understand that. But we just ask that the communication happens. And we ask that also if there's a change in your schedule and the board cannot be a priority, you have other things that we just have that line of communication that's open so we can discuss what we can do to accommodate, or maybe sometimes we have to discuss the things that changed on the ground. So maybe now is not the time for service as a board member, but we've also had instances where people are not able to continue their commitment as board members, but our resident members are valued and they're able to continue that and still give value in service to this district as well.
All right. General board. The general board meeting I put typically in a different color. Take place on the fourth Tuesday of each month, excluding the months of July and August, as mentioned before. I put typically because some of the months are saturated with holidays or religious observances, and so we're unable to have our meetings on the fourth Tuesday. So we'll either move it up to a Thursday or move it back to a Thursday, depending on the calendar. So again, typically it's the fourth Tuesday, but I just want to prep everyone in advance that there will be some months, typically in the fall, where we're unable to do it on Tuesdays and it'll likely be on another day. But during the general board meetings, board members will conduct, again, the board's business in a public meeting. The committee chairs, myself, the district manager, the chair of the board, we, and sometimes the treasurer, we give reports during the general board meeting. During also general board meetings, other agencies and elected officials who attend give brief announcements, about what work they're doing or upcoming projects that are relevant to our district. Meetings are conducted using Robert's Rules of Order, which is parliamentary procedures. I would definitely encourage, if you want to learn a little bit about Robert's Rules, you can go online, Google it. There's a lot of resources out there for it as well. Members of the public during the general board meeting can speak during a section called the public comment period. Essentially, this is, I think, up to 3 minutes, Fred, up to 3 minutes. Up to 3 minutes period, individuals can get to, bring either greetings to the board, issues before the board, ideas before the board, whatever it might be. To sign up for public comment, you can show up to the meeting. There will be a sign up sheet. You can sign up there, or you can call the office in advance to sign up for public comment, and we'll put you on the list. And then again, as I mentioned before, prior to the meetings, you can go to our website, go to the about, go to the agendas, and then you can find the agendas for not only the general board, but all of our committees as well. And then on the right side, you see an old agenda of the general board meeting. So this is how our agendas look, so you can kind of familiarize yourself with it. Date, time, and place. Typically, our general board meetings are held at MS 61, which is located at 400 Empire Boulevard. Again, because of holidays and religious observances, we get caught in a trap scheduling space. And even on the Thursdays, we get caught because of the precinct council. So we've got to dodge here and there. But typically, MS 61, 400 Empire Boulevard. I believe all of our meetings for the rest of the year are going to be at the school. So you can just go ahead and plan and prepare. Again, the calendar's already up on the website. All of our meetings are live streamed via YouTube. So if you go on to YouTube and you type in Brooklyn Community Board 9, when we're on the live stream, it will be right there. And then you can watch the live stream in real time of our meetings.
Dante, before you go on, if I could just say something very quickly about the meetings. So our meetings are in person. Our meetings are in person. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear about that. I know I've heard of other places where they try and do hybrid meetings. That is something that is allowed by state law, but we've been doing it in person because the way the hybrid law works is that at least the quorum needs to be present in person. So it gets a little bit unwieldy to say, okay, well, half the board or half the committee is going to be here, and then the rest are not going to be here, and then to coordinate that. So I just wanted to set that expectation. Now that's a conversation that's happening in the state legislature. If that changes at some point, and we are able to have more flexibility with that, and even more importantly, they put money towards that, that'll be something that we can entertain as a board. But I just wanted everyone to just kind of have the expectation that we get together in person. And you know what? It's not a bad thing either because we get to see each other on a monthly basis. And as much as we've learned to work electronically and with the boxes and seeing everybody's faces in a box. It's good to be able to get together and exchange ideas in person as well, and just get that energy from the board as well. Sorry, thank you very much for that.
All right. So the board office, again, you heard Fred talk a little bit about the administrative side of the board. So the board office, again, we work, I went not technically 365, but we work year round. So what we do in the board office is we coordinate in the delivery of services. So again, I mentioned sanitation, for example, right? If for a perfect example is alleyways, right? There are some streets in our district, some spaces in our district, some houses that have alleyways behind them. Not everywhere, but some. And so there has to be a coordination between those residents and the Department of Sanitation to get the trash from those alleyways, right? Because it's not in their day-to-day routine. So coordination of services. We process complaints that come in from residents relating to, again, services provided by municipal agencies, and sometimes complaints that aren't even municipal related. But we do our absolute best to try to direct constituents to where they need to go to get information if it's not a city related matter. We attend community board meetings and report on issues concerning taken at the district service cabinet. So something that I do every month is I meet with the agencies at a district service cabinet meeting, issues that are brought up throughout the month, even during the general board or even during public comment periods. I will take those back to the agencies, work with them to try to resolve them. I meet with them monthly, and then in that meeting, we talk about, okay, where are we at in the stages of resolving that? And if there's no push, I nudge, right? And make it, abundantly clear that these have to get resolved. Another thing, again, that the board office does is resolve minor local complaints. And we process complaints of a recurring nature or major nature to the appropriate authority. So a major nature kind of reoccurring would be like a sinkhole or a water main vein, like on Bedford Avenue, right? So that's like something that's major. We'll coordinate with the agencies, figure out, okay, what's going on there. Even if we have projects, maybe it's let's say like a ULERT project. I think what was it, the curb, the 975 curb. Some of the residents, like we put up signage outside so residents can see, okay, this is what we're doing, so they can offer feedback on processes about what we're doing or what the agency's doing as well. So we work hand in hand with the community that way. And again, the board office, we handle all the administrative functions of the board, and we operate in the board office. So in the board office, we do a lot of constituent work, either by phone, by email, or by walk-ins. And constituent work is folks are looking for housing, or they're looking to advocate for I guess like a speed bump. We'll educate them on the process and how they can do that. Just various things. And so we're in the board office again year round. You can stop in. It's 9 to 5. And again, we're there to be a resource. And then again, the staff, we help set the and organize the committee agendas, set the meetings, and maintain the records and minutes of the meetings. And so what that means is basically after the committees are done doing their business, those official minutes, we hold them in the board office. And so if any person, member of the public, wants to see those minutes, they're readily available to the public because we're there year round. And so board members are not, so we can make sure that people have access to those things as well. But as you mentioned, we have a very small team, just 3 of us. Our community associate is Khalid Jamaat. Our assistant DM is Mia Hilton. And again, myself, I'm the district manager of Community Board 9. So city funding budget. So Community Board 9 is, again, a city agency that's funded through OMB, similar to other city agencies. Our funding is approximately $410,000 a year, which covers staff salaries, rent, and then operational expenses. Operational expenses would be, if we want to do like this, a Zoom conference or meeting, right? Zoom costs money, things like that, and other specific initiatives. The fiscal year every year in the city of New York starts and ends the same. So it starts July 1st and ends June 30th every year. The board budget is administered by myself, the district manager. And again, the budget is for the operation of the board office. So we use the budget to support the board. We are there to support the board members to make sure, like if they want, I think Fred had mentioned that the committee had just created the small business guide, right? So we're in the process of creating physical small business guides. So we're here to be supportive to the board. And then again, the district manager and myself, I work with the committees, typically the chairs, and occasionally the entire board, to procure, if necessary, if funding allows, materials or services needed for board events. So again, I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things that we do every year is the community fair, where we have agencies and nonprofits and other community focused organizations and people come out and bring their services and information to the community. And so it takes a lot of a lot of capacity to do those things. And so I work with the board to procure those things and just other various things that come up, like changing the gate on the front office, right? Like things like that. I work with the board to procure those things for the agency.
Okay, so now that we've dazzled you with all the wonderful things CB9 does, we're going to talk about what is the process to actually become a board. So the process to become a board member, as we had mentioned earlier, is actually done by the Brooklyn Borough President. So he is responsible. He has responsibility through the charter for appointing all the members of the community boards. So all the applications run through his office. So to apply, most of that application is online now. So if you go to the Brooklyn Borough President's website, you can download the application, and you can fill it out and you submit it through the Borough President's website. They do take paper copies. So if you would like to fill it out in paper, you can download a copy of the paper copy, or they're actually available at our district office as well. The team has paper copies that are available. But I also want to make sure I underscore we'll give you the application. We don't give the application to Borough Hall. That's the applicant's responsibility to make sure it gets in the Borough Hall. So the application is due 9 days from now, February 14th. So you need to make sure that, please make sure you've downloaded it or you've gotten a paper copy, and please make sure it's fully completed and submitted by the deadline on February 14th. All right. If you are a current resident committee member, I thank you right off the bat. I thank you for your service, and I hope that you've been encouraged to deepen your commitment and actually become a member of the board. If you are here for the first time and you would like, you're interested, please, I hope we've given you a lot of information with regards to that. But also, we'll open up the floor at the end of this. So if anybody has any questions, you can do that. But of course, we'll make ourselves available. So if anybody has any questions about board service, absolutely. But again, I think I've been here 13 years. Am I going to say it's easy? No. But I will always say that it's been something that's been fulfilling to be of service to my district, my neighbors in this way. So absolutely. I would say if you are also just to give you a heads up, it is an extensive application. So they do last for a lot of information because part of that application process is trying to get certain demographic information because the borough president's job is to do geographic diversity or to achieve diversity in the boards. So he's looking for people who are students. He's looking for people who have master's degrees. He's looking for people who have high school diplomas. He's looking for people who earn 100,000. He's looking for people who earn 20,000. He's looking for people who drive cars. He's looking for people who take trains. So don't feel that I don't earn enough or I don't do enough. It's all about the perspectives, the diversity of perspectives you try and get on the board, because it's that diversity that helps us have the conversations we need to have to make sure we're responsive to the needs of the district. Thank you very much.
All right. And then this information again, community board, the director of community boards is Carol Ann Church. They are located at Borough Hall on Geralm Street. This is their email, cbapplication@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. Definitely, if you have any questions, reach out to the Borough President's Office. Phone numbers there as well. Any questions regarding the application to become a community board, direct it to Borough Hall. So as mentioned before, committees also have resident committee members, and resident committee members are vital, to the work that the committees do. They are appointed by the chairperson of the board at the beginning of the year or the committee chair, and then they serve as also voting members on their respective committees, which is extremely important. So, being a resident committee member, you have a voice, right? You get to vote. You show up. Attendance is important. Show up. You get to vote. And so I think that that's extremely important, and it's important to remind people of that. And typically, our resident committee member application comes out in the summer. So what we'll do, we'll put it in our e-blast, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and on the website. But we'll disseminate it in the summer, try to get as many people, as possible to fill it out. And then when the chair stacks the committees at the beginning of the session, resident committee members are appointed. And so definitely, if you know folks who are interested in the board, if they don't have the capacity to be a board member, maybe they can't make the 2 meetings, maybe it's good for them to be a resident committee member and they can commit to that one. So there's a little flexibility there as well. And again, they're voting members of their respective committees. Very important, because information. How to submit a complaint. You can use your search engine, whatever search engine you use. Typically, if you put NYC 311, it'll pop up, report issues that you see across the district. You'll get a service request number that looks like on the screen, 311, and then some numbers. Send that number. If you also have a picture, that would be great. Send that to the board office if you're able to email. And then we can literally send that directly to the agency so they know the exact complaint, and we can keep literally a record of what the agency is doing in real time. Some of the agencies, again, sorry, allow for the public to submit. Oh, okay, yeah, my apology. So some of the agencies, and I'm not sure why, but their specific request goes directly to the agency. So for example, if you wanted to submit a complaint about a traffic light, you would submit that on DOT's direct website rather than 311. So some of the agencies have various reporting systems. So it depends what you're reporting. If you ever have any questions, you definitely can just reach out to the board office, and then we can just send you a link. You can report it, send us back the reference number, and then we can liaise with the agency that way. Again, email us bk09 -1 at cb.nyc.gov. You can email us that information or call, and we'll connect with you. It'll either be myself, again, Mia Hilton, or Khalid Jamat on our team. And then you can also go to our website and submit a complaint as well. So there's various ways to submit a complaint. It all comes to our office. But again, if you can get a 311 number, that's very helpful because that is like a record that we can use to liaise with the agency to make sure that they're addressing the things that we're sending over. And then last thing I definitely want to talk about, and I'm going to, after I get finished, I'm going to probably ask Ethan to chime in just a little bit about the WhatsApp. But one of the things that we do is we send a weekly e-blast out. So if you are unfamiliar with this, we send a weekly e-blast out every typically Friday at 5 p.m. That's filled with information about what the board's doing. It's filled with information from city agencies, a lot of information from nonprofits. A lot of these nonprofits get city contracts, and so they're required to do things out in communities. And so we try to connect with them. And so we put that information when they're doing programs in our district or near our district in our e-blast. And then if there's, really any significant programming around the area that is brought to our attention, we'll put that in the e-blast as well. If you aren't signed up, you can email us, again, bk09 -1 at cb.nyc.gov, or you can give us a call at 718-778-9279. We'll just ask first name, last name, and email, and then we will get you signed up for our e-blast, and then you can start getting information on a regular basis. But we know that email is not always the best method or most accessible for some folks. So we're leaning into looking at other, ways to communicate with people. So Ethan, our transportation committee chair and second vice chair, Jesus, you're first vice chair, goodness, and first
Right,
vice
first.
chair, came up with a great idea of using WhatsApp. And I'm going to let him take it away from here because he's been great at it.
Well, thanks. And it wasn't even just me. There are other people on the board who also brought the idea up and sort of thought that it would be a good method to, talk to each other and sort of help the board talk to the public. So, I mean, in an effort to communicate better with the public, WhatsApp can be a pretty useful tool. Other governments use it. And I think in our case, since a lot of what we do involves the public or can make a lot of use of public feedback and public opinion, and even just public experience of what we're doing, combined with the fact that a lot of people don't really know what community boards are or how to stay updated with what they're doing. WhatsApp's a really good way to, get information to the public in a way that is low energy and doesn't require a ton of activity from the board. Some people put flyers up in public places. Some people do a lot of other things, and those things have their place. But if we want to make, communication between the public and the board easy, and if we're serious about getting people in touch and updated with what the board's doing, I think reaching people where they are, which is on their phones, is a more seamless and easier way to get that done than sending an email that often can get lost, can get missed, especially if there isn't like a rule in your inbox set up to put these emails in a certain place. So going forward, we're going to be piloting and exploring how we can use WhatsApp to get people in a position where hearing from the board is easy and instant, as opposed to, a little more difficult and sometimes not really instant based on when you happen to see it. If you're on the e-blast, there may be a time soon when you see a link or a QR code to the WhatsApp channel. It'll essentially be a one-way communication method where you can see what the board is putting out on a pretty regular basis. It'll be things like meeting times, meeting locations, maybe live stream links and all that kind of stuff, so that people could just see what the board's up to and take part in it too. So things like surveys and other pieces of content may eventually go out as well, so that people have an easy, quick way to take part in the board's work, share it with friends, people who live in the area, neighbors, so that it wouldn't be small groups who happen to know about this, sort of like insiders, and there'll be more people, it'll be more widespread so the public can actually know about this stuff and take part in it on an easier basis.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Ethan. And again, definitely want to direct people. If you're on the eBlast, thank you for signing up. If you know people who aren't on it, definitely have them reach out to the board office so we can get them connected to the eBlast, and then we'll obviously get them connected to the WhatsApp moving forward. So with that, I will turn it back over to the chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is our last slide, huh? All right. Listen, I want to thank everyone who's come this evening for this learn about your community board presentation. As a board member, I think it's always good for me to see these over again, even though I've seen the presentation, but it serves as a good refresher in terms of who we are as a board and how we function, and the necessity of having diversity on the board. I'm listening to Ethan's presentation about WhatsApp. My old brain probably couldn't think about that. But that's why it's great to have new members come in, new ideas, new thoughts, and introducing perhaps rethinks about how we do things as a board. That's how we grow. That's how we get better. I want to say that, taking on my own personal privilege for a second, it's been my honor, pleasure, and privilege to be able to serve as the chair for the last 5 years. And I've seen so much growth come out of this board, on this board, and I've seen so much come out of this. So I'm high on CB9. I really appreciate the work that we do here. I appreciate the people who have dedicated themselves to being a service to the district. If and for anybody who's interested, if you are reapplying, I hope this ignites a fire in terms of you say, yes, I want to come back, and I've gotten a few ideas in terms of how we can do this even better. If you are looking at us for the first time, I thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening. I hope we've given you some information, and absolutely we'll be here if there's any other questions as well. Um, I want to also thank our district office team. We can never thank them enough in terms of we have some dedicated professionals, Dante, Mia, and Khalid. They really take care of us in ways we don't fully appreciate sometimes. And to all the officers who are here as well, I thank you for supporting this. I thank you for setting an example in terms of coming and supporting your board. This is fantastic. At this time, I think, I thank everybody who's hung out for a few minutes. Um, if there are any questions, we can take them as well. Or if you'd rather just reach out to us separately, we can do that. But does anybody has a question they would like to ask? And it's okay. You can just unmute if you have a question.
Hi, my name is Catlin Michael Wachowski. I actually live above Community Board 9. Thanks for being great neighbors. But one, and I'm sure you went over this, but meetings are just open to the public. So even if I just was curious and wanted to go to the Transportation Committee meeting, there's no, that's separate from being like a resident member. That's like a voting member, but all those meetings are just open in public.
Correct. I mean, $5 admission fee, but after that, yeah, you can come anytime.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks. This was super informative.
Thank you so much for that question and comment. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else have questions? Okay. Well, listen, hearing none, again, I thank everyone for your time this evening, and we're looking forward to seeing you at our committee meetings and our general board meetings and at our events as well. Everyone, have a great night. Thank you very much.
Have a great night. Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.